It's a strange feeling, isn't it? Like the world handed everyone else a map, except you. Everyone seems to be moving. Forward, upward, somewhere, and you're just here. Paused in a life that feels like it should have started by now. Maybe you keep asking, what's wrong with me? Why do others find love, purpose, clarity, while I stand still in the fog? You scroll past their milestones, new homes, engagements, promotions. You smile, you clap quietly, but inside something whispers, I'm falling behind. That whisper grows louder at night. When it's quiet, when your heart remembers everything it tried to forget all day. But here's something no one tells you when your world pauses. Sometimes your delay is your protection. Sometimes life is not stopping you. It's saving you because you're not behind. You're being redirected. And maybe, just maybe, the reason you haven't arrived where you think you should be is because where you were headed was never meant for you. In this video, we're going to walk together into the quiet truths you rarely hear, the kind that don't come from textbooks or self-help cliches, but from the places inside you that ache for answers. This isn't about advice, it's about resonance. And maybe, just maybe, a little relief that you're not broken, that this isn't the end, that you're being reshaped for something far deeper than what you thought you were chasing. If you find comfort here, if this reaches a part of you that hasn't had words in a while, stay, breathe with me. And if your heart asks for more moments like this, you're welcome to subscribe, like, or share this space with someone who feels alone in the waiting. But no pressure, only if it feels right. Let's begin. Have you ever felt like you were walking through life with someone else's shadow looming over you? You see their path, their choices, their pace, and it's like you're walking beside them, but you're not really in step. Their steps are strong, confident, sure. And yours? They're a bit unsure, a bit heavy, a bit lost. You've been doing everything right. You've checked off the boxes. Work hard, love hard, be the person everyone expects. But in your chest, there's a feeling like you're moving, but not really living, like there's a version of you out there somewhere who's actually free, actually peaceful, actually thriving. But you're still here, stuck in the same pattern. And every time you try to change direction, something pulls you back. The same relationship patterns, the same toxic habits, the same unsatisfying moments. It feels like you're getting nowhere. It's like the universe is trying to tell you something, but you can't quite make it out. Every relationship ends the same way. Every job feels like a dead end. Your heart is tired. And no matter how much you try to push forward, you can't escape the feeling that you're just not getting it. But let me tell you something that might feel strange at first. The truth is, you are exactly where you need to be. I know that might sound impossible, but listen closely. The life you're living right now, whether you understand it or not, is setting you up for something you can't even imagine yet. What if the pain is just the messenger? What if the heartbreak, the frustration, the confusion wasn't random? What if it was all part of a redirection? A gentle hand guiding you off the path you thought you were supposed to follow and pointing you toward a new way. You've been trying to make things work the way everyone else does. You've been chasing after what you thought would bring you happiness, but it hasn't. And maybe that's because, deep down, your soul is meant to walk a different road, a quieter one that doesn't follow the crowd. It's easy to look around and think that you're falling behind. Everyone else seems to have it figured out, while you're stuck in limbo. But what if that limbo is just the moment before something beautiful happens? What if it's the space where you get to truly hear your own heart, without the noise of others telling you what you should want, should do, should be? You're not broken. You're being reborn. And sometimes the universe has to pull you apart, make you question everything so that you can finally stand in your own truth. But here's the thing. It's okay to feel lost. It's okay to feel like you're not in the right place. Feeling this way isn't a sign that you're behind. It's a sign that you're being reshaped. You're not failing. You're being redirected. So let the current take you where it needs to. There's a kind of ache that comes from trying so hard to fit where you don't belong. You've worn masks to keep the peace, bitten your tongue to hold on to love, stayed in rooms long after your soul whispered to leave, and each time, a piece of you went quiet, not because you were weak, but because you didn't want to be alone. That's the part that hurts the most, doesn't it? You didn't just want success, or love, or peace. You wanted to feel safe, to feel chosen, to feel like you mattered. But somewhere along the way, you confused survival with belonging. You taught yourself to shrink, because maybe if you were smaller, quieter, easier, they'd stay. They'd see you, they'd choose you. And still, they didn't. Or they did, but only for the version of you that wasn't fully you. So now you're left with a question you can't shake. Was it ever real? Or was I just trying to earn what should have been freely given? It's exhausting, isn't it? To keep trying, to keep hoping, to keep showing up with your heart open, only to be met with silence, or half love, or praise that feels more like performance than presence. But here's a truth most people won't say out loud. Sometimes the people you love the most were never meant to stay. Not because you're unlovable, but because your healing would have been impossible in their presence. You weren't rejected because you were too much. You were redirected because you were finally you were waking up. And the life you're meant for, it doesn't require you to dim your light or water yourself down. It's not found in begging for breadcrumbs of affection or contorting into a version of yourself that feels acceptable. No, the life you're meant for waits patiently as you unlearn the lie that you have to earn your worth. It watches, lovingly, as you walk away from everything that once made you feel small, as you step into your truth not loudly, but honestly, gently. This, right here, this quiet shift you're in, it's not failure, it's not falling apart. It's your soul reclaiming itself. And yes, it's terrifying, because no one talks about how painful growth can be, how lonely it feels to leave behind the known, how confusing it is to not have answers, to only have instincts. But that's where all sacred journeys begin, not with a map, but with a moment. The moment you stop chasing and start listening, the moment you stop performing and start pausing, the moment you realize that just because you used to love something doesn't mean you still have to stay. So if you're standing in that strange in-between where you don't quite know what's next, but you know you can't go back, take a breath. You're not behind. You're being rewritten. Do you know what no one really prepares you for? The silence after the letting go. Not the dramatic kind. Not the loud, angry breakups or the tearful goodbyes. No, this silence is deeper. It happens in the spaces in between, when you finally walk away from something you never thought you could, and then the world goes quiet. And you wait for a sign, for a new door, for the next chapter to rush in. But it doesn't. Not right away. Instead, you get silence, space, stillness. And in that stillness, everything you've been avoiding shows up. The grief of what didn't work out, the anger at how long you stayed, the fear that maybe you'll never get it right. You stare at the ceiling at night, wondering if you made a mistake. You scroll past other people's lives, asking why it looks so easy for them. You whisper questions into the dark, like prayers you're not sure anyone hears. But here's what I hope you understand, truly, deeply understand. That silence isn't your punishment. It's your sanctuary. Because when the noise fades, when the distractions fall away, when the pretending finally stops, that's when your real self gets to speak. That's when the child in you who's been ignored for years finally says, "I'm tired of trying to be good enough." That's when your body says, "I don't want to keep pushing through this pain." That's when your soul says, "I'm ready for something more real, more soft, more honest." The silence isn't empty, it's full of you. The you that's been waiting underneath the roles, the expectations, the constant proving. And yes, it feels like nothing is happening. But something is. Something always is. Your roots are growing in that stillness. Your truth is gathering strength. And quietly, in ways you can't yet see, you are shifting. You're no longer chasing what was never meant for you. You're no longer tolerating what your heart had to numb itself to endure. You're learning to sit with yourself, to hear yourself, to trust yourself. That is not small. That is not a delay. That is transformation. And it doesn't come with applause. It doesn't come with a deadline. It comes with patience, with compassion, with staying present even when everything inside you screams to rush ahead. You've spent so much of your life running toward love, running from pain, running to catch up with some invisible timeline. But now, you're finally still. Not because you gave up, but because you're waking up, and in this stillness, you're learning something sacred. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not broken. You are in the middle of being redirected to something that won't require you to abandon yourself to be worthy of it. It's strange, isn't it? How we mourn things that hurt us. How we miss the people who made us feel invisible. How we long for the life that slowly drained us just because it was familiar. You're not weak for missing what you had to walk away from. You're not confused for grieving something that wasn't good for you. You're human. You loved. You tried. You hoped. But now comes the part no one warned you about. The echo of that old life still calling your name when you're trying to move forward. The way you question your own memory. Was it really that bad? Maybe you were the problem. Maybe if you had just... No, you weren't crazy. You weren't too much. You weren't unlovable. You were just in a place that couldn't hold the weight of your truth. And that place can be a relationship, a job, a version of you that you outgrew quietly while the world kept expecting you to be who you used to be. Sometimes, the greatest heartbreak isn't the ending itself. It's realizing you betrayed yourself trying to keep something that was never meant to stay. And now, you're here, not sure where you're going, only knowing what you can't return to. This space, this nowhere place, it's disorienting. It doesn't come with clear steps. No one claps for you when you choose healing over habit, when you choose solitude over staying in the wrong story, when you choose the long, slow path of becoming. But those choices, they're everything, because healing isn't loud. It's not dramatic or flashy. It's quiet, private, often unseen. It's choosing not to text them back. It's sitting with your loneliness instead of numbing it. It's unclenching your jaw, softening your heart, and giving yourself grace for the days you can't move forward. You don't have to feel ready to start again. You just have to stop punishing yourself for not being where you thought you should be. This detour is divine, even if it looks like loss, even if it feels like failure, even if the people around you don't understand your choices. You know what they don't see? The war you fought inside your own mind, the nights you lay in silence, convincing yourself to stay. The years you spent performing a version of yourself that made everyone else comfortable but left you hollow. You're not running away, you're finally coming home. And yes, that process looks like loneliness sometimes. It looks like letting go of things with shaking hands. It looks like doubting yourself, even as you know, deep down, you're finally being honest. You're not falling behind. You're following a different rhythm now. One that doesn't scream. One that whispers. And if you're quiet enough, if you dare to sit with yourself long enough, you'll hear it. The sound of your life returning, not the one they told you to live, the one you were always meant for. There's a soft kind of power that comes when you stop chasing the life you thought you were supposed to have. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't come in the form of fireworks or sudden clarity. It slips in gently like breath after crying, like quiet after chaos. You start waking up and noticing the smallest things, the way your shoulders aren't as tight, the way your laughter, when it finally comes, feels real again, the way you're not constantly second-guessing your worth. There's a part of you that doesn't quite believe it yet. You keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, for life to hurt you again, for someone to tell you it was all a mistake and you have to go back to who you were before. But that version of you is gone, not in a violent way, in a sacred way, because something broke open when you let go. And what spilled out wasn't weakness, it was the truth. The truth that you've always been more than what they saw, that you've always carried a depth most people never took the time to understand, that your softness was never a flaw, it was a kind of strength that this world forgot how to hold, and now you're learning to hold it yourself. You don't need to explain why you left. You don't need to justify why you changed. You don't need to convince anyone that your quiet healing is worth something. The people who are meant for you will never ask you to shrink. They will not flinch at your depth. They will not be threatened by your voice. They will not run from your wounds. Because the right ones, they don't come to fix you. They come to meet you, to see you, to sit beside you in the places where you've been alone for far too long. But before they arrive, there's one person who needs to do that first. You. You're the one who needs to sit beside your own pain and say, I see you. I'm not afraid of you. I won't leave. You're the one who needs to become the love you've been waiting for. And maybe that sounds like a cliche, but not when you're in it. Not when you're holding yourself on the bathroom floor. Not when you're whispering affirmations through tears. Not when you're staring at your own reflection trying to believe that who you are is enough. That's not cliche. That's courage. And it doesn't happen all at once. There are days you'll fall back into old patterns. There are days you'll miss the very thing that broke you. There are days you'll want to give up, but you won't. Because something inside you knows this pain has a purpose. Not a punishment, a purpose. It's guiding you home. You're not behind. You're not off track. You're not too late for your life. You're just arriving in it for the first time fully. There's a moment, quiet and sacred, when you realize you don't have to fight anymore. Not to prove yourself. Not to earn love. Not to keep things from falling apart. You just exhale. And in that breath, you feel something you haven't felt in a long time. Release. It doesn't mean everything is fixed. It doesn't mean the sadness disappears. But it means you're no longer clinging to things that were never yours to carry. The urgency fades. The fear begins to loosen its grip. And in its place, something softer arrives. You begin to choose yourself in small, quiet ways. Not out of spite, not to prove a point, but because you've finally made peace with the truth. You're worthy, even here, even now. Even before the healing is complete. You eat when you're hungry. You rest when you're tired. You say no without explaining. You stop apologizing for needing space. You stop measuring your value by how useful or lovable or convenient you are to others. These are the rebellions no one sees, but they're the ones that change everything. Because when you stop abandoning yourself to be chosen, you start living from a different place. A place that's not built on fear, but trust. You begin to trust that what's meant for you won't require you to betray yourself. You begin to trust that the detour wasn't a mistake, it was divine timing. You begin to trust that all this time you weren't falling behind. You were being made ready. And as you move differently, the world begins to feel different too. You see beauty in places you used to overlook. You notice how silence can be peaceful, not empty. You feel how loneliness starts turning into solitude. You recognize how your past doesn't own you anymore. It shaped you, yes, but it no longer defines you. And slowly, gently, you stop trying to become someone new and start remembering who you've always been. The child in you, once silenced by shame and fear, begins to speak. Not in words, but in feelings. A desire for joy, for freedom, for rest. And this time, you don't ignore that voice. You listen, you honor it. You understand now that healing isn't becoming someone better. It's shedding everything that made you forget your worth in the first place. You're not here to be perfect. You're here to be real. And realness means being messy, being tender, being brave enough to keep showing up even when your heart feels raw, especially then. So if today feels heavy, if the silence feels unbearable, if the waiting feels endless, know this: you are not lost. You are not too late. You are not too far gone. You're in the middle of becoming, and it's not always pretty, but it is holy. You've made it through heartbreaks that should have broken you. You've survived versions of yourself that were never truly you, and you're still here. That is not failure. That is sacred strength. So take another breath, trust the stillness, stay with yourself. You're not behind. You're exactly where your soul needed to pause. There's something holy about the pause before the breakthrough. You might not see it yet, but you're standing at the edge of something real, something earned, something only those who've sat in the dark long enough can ever recognize. Because when you've been stripped of all the illusions, when there's nothing left to prove, perform, or pretend, what's left is the truth. And truth is quiet. It doesn't shout. It doesn't demand attention. It sits patiently, waiting for you to turn inward and ask the one question that changes everything. What if I stop running from myself? It's terrifying, that question, because it means facing the moments you've buried, the wounds you thought time would erase, the stories you told yourself so you could survive. But also, hidden beneath all of that is a version of you untouched by pain, unbothered by expectations, unshaken by rejection. That version of you, it's not gone. It's been waiting, softly, silently, through every storm. And now, as the old parts of your life crumble not violently, but honestly, you get to decide. Not how to fix it, but how to feel it, how to hold yourself through the ache, how to not rush the healing this time. You were never meant to stay in places where your heart had to fight to be heard. You were never meant to chase people who couldn't meet you. And you were never meant to live in a story that told you your softness was a weakness. So maybe this pause is more than just a break in momentum. Maybe it's an invitation to rest, to grieve, to reset. Because when everything else is stripped away and all you're left with is yourself, you finally see what you've always been searching for. Not love that comes and goes, not approval that's conditional, not success that costs your soul, but a home within. The kind of home where you are allowed to feel everything, where you are held, not judged, where your pain isn't a burden but a doorway. And through that doorway, something new begins to form, not quickly, but faithfully. A quiet resilience, a softer strength, a deeper trust in the unfolding. This is not the end. It never was. It's the unraveling before the rising. And yes, you are allowed to rise slowly. You are not late to your purpose. You are not failing at healing. You are not too broken to begin again. You are simply in the becoming. And the becoming is sacred. So if no one told you today, if the world didn't remind you, let this be your whisper in the dark. You're not behind. You're being redirected. And it's not by accident. There will come a day when you wake up and your first thought isn't what you lost, or who hurt you, or what you could have done differently. That day may not be today, but it's coming, quietly, surely, like dawn creeping in beneath a door. And when it arrives, it won't be loud. You won't leap out of bed. There won't be fireworks. It might even feel like any other day. But inside you, something will have shifted. You'll sit in the same room that once held your grief and feel still. You'll walk past the places that used to sting and feel peace. You'll hear their name and feel nothing but release. And maybe for the first time in a long time, you'll smile without effort. Not because everything is perfect, but because something is free. You are free. Free from the weight of proving, free from the loop of what if, free from the idea that love only comes when you earn it. Because somewhere along this silent journey, you stopped trying to fix yourself and started listening to yourself. And what you heard was not brokenness. It was wisdom. It was truth. It was the voice you buried beneath the noise of survival. That voice, however faint, is your compass now. And it leads you towards softness, not weakness, but softness, the kind that bends but doesn't break. The kind that says, I can be open and still protect my peace. The kind that no longer trades authenticity for acceptance. It's a new kind of strength you're learning, one that doesn't come from pushing harder, but from surrendering deeper. You stop clinging to timelines. You stop measuring yourself against others. You stop waiting for external permission to feel worthy. And that's when the real magic begins. Because from this place, this rooted, real place, you begin to create a life that feels like yours. You don't rush into relationships that mimic old wounds. You don't stay in jobs that suffocate your spirit. You don't settle for less just to avoid being alone, because you've been alone, and you survived. Not just survived, you softened. You grew. You cracked open. You let light in. That version of you, the one rising now, they are not the result of a perfect plan. They are the result of every detour, every heartbreak, every moment you thought you wouldn't make it. So if today still feels tender, if the quiet still feels heavy, if the waiting still aches, place a hand on your chest, feel your heartbeat. That rhythm is not behind, it's right on time. You are not lost. You are not broken. You are not late. You are on your way home. There's a moment, maybe it's today, maybe tomorrow, when you'll look in the mirror and not see a project to fix, but a person to love. Not because all the pain has disappeared, not because everything suddenly makes sense, but because something softer has settled in. Acceptance. Not the passive kind, not the kind that means giving up, but the deep kind. The kind that says, even if I never become who they wanted, I will still be enough for me. That's when healing stops being an end goal and starts becoming a way of living, a quiet way, a kind way, a way that doesn't punish you for being in process. You begin to speak to yourself like someone you care about. You begin to make decisions not from fear, but from alignment. You begin to ask not, what do they want from me, but what do I need to feel whole? It's subtle at first. You may still catch yourself apologizing for your feelings. You may still flinch when you're met with silence. You may still worry you're too much or not enough. But the difference now is, you catch it. You pause. You notice. You breathe. And in that breath, you remember, you are not behind. You are healing in real time. And healing in real time means you'll take steps forward and sometimes step back. You'll feel strong one day and hollow the next. You'll think you're over them until a memory brushes your skin like a cold wind. But even on those days, even in those moments, you are not who you were. Because now, you carry yourself differently. You belong to yourself in a way no one can take from you. And that belonging, it changes everything. It changes how you love slowly, without begging. It changes how you grieve openly, without shame. It changes how you dream bravely, without asking for permission. You begin to trust that the version of you that is honest, messy, sensitive, and real is the most powerful one you've ever known. And the people who are meant to walk with you from here, they won't ask you to hide her. They won't punish you for your softness. They won't turn away when your voice trembles or your eyes fill. They will stay, not because you earned it, but because you were finally real enough to receive it. So maybe after everything, that's what this was all about. Not building a perfect life, but learning how to be fully present in your imperfect one. Not chasing a version of love that keeps you small, but learning how to love in a way that sets you free. Not arriving at some perfect finish line, but realizing there was never a race to begin with. You haven't fallen behind. You've been walking home the whole time, through every heartbreak, through every silent night, through every sacred pause. And now, you're almost there. There's something tender about the last stretch before becoming. It doesn't feel triumphant. It doesn't feel victorious. It feels quiet. Like standing in a room you used to cry in and realizing you don't need to anymore. Like hearing an old name and no longer shrinking into it. Like touching your own hand and thinking, I know who lives here now. You didn't get here by accident. You didn't arrive here because it was easy. You walked through fire, through loss, through silence so loud it could split you in two. And yet here you are, more honest, more present, more you than you've ever been. Because this was never about fixing what was broken. It was about unlearning the story that told you you were broken in the first place. It was about returning to your breath, to your softness, to the sacred knowing that you are not a problem to be solved, but a soul to be honored. So maybe the job didn't work out. Maybe the relationship ended. Maybe the path you thought would carry you forward left you standing in the rubble of plans that didn't unfold. But none of that was a mistake. Every closed door was a kindness. Every goodbye was a form of grace. Every detour was a redirection towards something more aligned. You didn't fall behind, you stepped out of a story that was never yours to begin with. And now you get to live differently. Not faster, not louder, but truer. You get to create love that doesn't ask you to shrink. You get to build a life that holds your whole heart. You get to choose peace, not because life is perfect, but because you've learned to protect your own presence. That's the gift of all of this. That after everything, after the unraveling, the ache, the slow return, you know how to be with yourself. You don't run from your shadows. You don't beg to be seen. You don't fear the silence, because you've met yourself there. And what you found wasn't emptiness, it was truth. It was power. It was you. You worthy not because you've achieved some version of success, but because you've stayed with yourself through every rise, every fall, every pause. So take this last breath with me, softly. This isn't the end. This is the beginning of your return to yourself, to love that feels like home, to a life that doesn't ask you to leave pieces of yourself behind. You're not behind. You were being redirected all along, and now you're exactly where you're meant to be.